On the way down, I saw you, you saved me from myself. And I won't forget the way you loved me.
Guys, I don't think those are the words.
What do you mean?
It's
It's the Ryan Cabrera hit song from whenever.
On the Wayground?
I'm pretty sure it's a very 90s, 2000 type song.
Oh, baby, that's when I was
in
my prime. No, wrong lyrics?
Pretty sure it's On the Way Down.
Oh, On the Way Down. I mean, close enough.
The ground
Close
is
enough.
down.
The ground is down,
Ground
though.
is
Yes.
down.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
And a great way to start off.
So if you didn't pick up what we were putting down, but we are talking about Wayground today in today's episode on ReFre5hed. Before we even get into that, I do want to talk a little bit about, I always like to bring the good old days, right, to where we are now in education. So,
Old school, some might say.
Old school, but I don't know, that I feel like sometimes old school gives like a bad like juju over it, because I don't know, there's just so much good in old school, I think.
It's true.
You know, and but on this particular topic, we're going to talk a little bit about assessments and how we were assessed versus how kids are assessed now, right?
Right.
And there are lots of similarities because some things don't change, and that's totally okay, but there are things that do change, and there are things that do evolve over time. So I know when I think back to being in a student chair in elementary school, middle school, and high school, how my teachers assessed me was they just waited for us to raise our hand, or they went by the attendance checklist and called on your name, and you kind of knew the order because they never shuffled the order. So I always knew that I was going right after Matt.
True.
Not this Matt, but a different Matt.
And you would prepare your answer based on the
Absolutely,
order
I
that you
would.
would be like, okay, this is what I'm going to say.
Absolutely.
Sure. I also remember being able to be fairly anonymous in the classroom. I was not a very outgoing student, and so if you were quiet enough, no one ever called on you.
Same for you, Kevin?
Yeah, I'd say probably the same thing as Kristen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of laid low to try to not be.
You know what I didn't enjoy? I didn't enjoy the popcorn reading.
That was the worst.
Yes.
That
Especially when
made me-
someone would read more than they should have, so what you had prepped
Right.
just gets completely washed away.
Yes, and then I would count like, okay, I think I'm gonna get called because I'm friends with this person. Like,
Right.
now they're reading until this word, so I'm gonna be prepared for this paragraph, and then they didn't pick me.
And also the whole time you're not listening to anything anyone is reading because you're just so focused on the part that you have to say.
100%.
Yeah.
I never knew what was going on in those books.
Yeah. And then I always remember like big unit tests at the end. You know, you'd talk about a topic for 2 weeks and they'd be like, okay, we're having the test. And
The
you're like,
unit
all
exam.
right.
Yep. Man, what I would give to be a student now.
So different.
So this brings up, you know, we've gone from that, right? And then I want to say just about around the time that I got into ed tech and got hired in BOCES, there were two major platforms that were big, and most teachers, if not all, knew about them. And there were only two options, right? Which made my life very easy at the time because I was like, oh, there's only two that I have to know inside and out. And those two were Kahoot and quizzes, right? And it would literally be like which one's better? And teachers would be like, no, Kahoot is better because the whole, you know, class is completely involved and they have to pay attention to the board and they have
Right.
to answer on their screens. Where then quizzes came out probably around the same time, maybe a little bit after.
It was a little after.
And then quizzes was like, no, we're better because you can actually see the answers on your screen and the questions, and you don't have to actually look up at the smart board or the projector board.
Right, because Kahoot had that weird thing where on the device that you were answering on, it only had the color and the shape. It didn't have the actual choice. You had to look at the board.
And then you get a slew of, I clicked the wrong one.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it was kind of just like,
Yes.
well,
And then I remember the different colors. So like it was like red, yellow, blue, green,
Yes.
or whatever. And if it was a colored answer, like our elementary teachers, they would be like, this is messing up the kids because they're going by like, oh, the answer is green, but it's in the red box, and
Right.
it got a little out of control. But you want to know what quizzes did
Tell us.
back in the day? Why they believe they were better? It's because they built in memes. They were the premier product because kids could have fun and have memes every time they either got a correct answer or an incorrect answer. So the teacher could put in the memes, and like if they got it right, it was like some random guy saying good job, and the kids would laugh. And if it was not good, they would get like a thumbs down, right?
Fun fact, I just Googled. Kahoot was founded in 2012 and Quizzes was founded in 2015.
There you go. So a couple of years apart.
For inquiring minds.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, it was definitely interesting. I remember when I went to a conference, I think it was ISTE, years ago, and they had the quizzes booth in the vendor area, and I go up to them, and there were like 2 employees, and I just thought they were like salespeople, telling us about the products and everything, and they were like, no, we built quizzes, and I was just like, wait, what?
Which is amazing.
And they were like, yeah, it's just us 2 running the show. It's 2 people running all of quizzes at the time. And I was just perplexed about like how that's possible, just because I know we are a school district and we have, just for IT alone, like we're a department of what?
Close to 20 people, I'd say.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah,
we're just
altogether
under
between-
that, but yeah, between the,
Between
instruction.
EdTech and
Yes, I was going to say
IT?
between actual ed tech and actual engineers, technicians,
Building
clericals.
techs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're a large department running a district, and they're 2 masterminds behind the computer running
That was
a
also a cool
software
time,
program.
I feel like, for software, though, in that when you saw an issue or had a suggestion, when there are so few people running something like that, they're often heard, and those suggestions are taken and implemented fairly quickly.
Right. So now we're Wayground, and I was so confused why they even changed their name. So
Well, I know why they changed the name.
Quizzes went to Wayground. I remember getting the email, and
Yeah.
I was just like, why this name Wayground?
But we know why, because it's way better than it was.
It is way better than it was, Kristen. Is that what they said, though? Is that what you're saying?
I am just inferring.
I mean, the legend of quizzes is still there. Even my kids, they'll still
Yeah.
be like, "You mean quizzes?" I'm like, "No, it's now Wayground."
It's now Wayground, yeah.
Exactly.
And they still kept with like the purplish kind of color theme. But I will say that it has evolved beyond what it was. It used to be literally just quizzes. I think you could assign homework on it, years ago, but they've completely done a complete revamp. So now is when we're going to introduce our 4th voice on here, because I'm sure everyone listening is wondering,
Who is that?
well, we got Kevin and we got Victoria and we got Kristen, but who is this 4th voice? So go ahead, Matt.
All right, my name is Matt Coleman. I have taught 0.6 years of school, so I'm a new teacher, so all this stuff is overwhelming at times, but it's been a really good tool. So I'm really excited to get to share some of my perspective on how this has been helping me get my kids to where they need to be in June.
That's awesome.
Perfect.
We are so happy to have you here. And you were one of the early adopters, I will say. And we, Victoria and I, had an opportunity to pull all the first-year teachers in October for a training. And Wayground was one of the tools that we introduced. And as you said, in October of your very first year of teaching, there's so much happening, and I'm sure everyone's head was spinning. But one of the ways that we like to introduce tools is to have teachers use it as if they were students, and we put them in this immersive environment, and they get to sort of utilize the tool and see it for themselves. And Matt was quick on the uptake. We did a trivia quiz to launch things off, and Matt answered like all of the questions right, even though he hadn't even been born yet for most of them. So that was humbling.
We had some music, I think, questions in there.
Yeah, a lot of music questions,
some movie
television reference, a lot of pop
questions.
culture stuff.
Yeah.
But again, it was to expose everyone to the different types of questions now that quizzes offers. It's not just multiple choice questions.
Right. So Matt, when you first logged on, when we had you log in as a student and you were participating in that immersive environment, right? What were some takeaways that you initially thought? Like, you're playing this game, right? And what were some things that you noticed?
Just from the start, joinmyquiz.com is a super easy URL for kids to put in. Time and money is time. So like those little shortcuts and those kinds of things are really nice. what I liked is you get this little character thing. I find that students, anytime that they could like personalize, name something, or make it their own, just put some smiles on their face and it gets them in a positive frame of mind. Before they have to go and look at test review, that's what I use it for. It's my bread and butter. But as we went through it, you get different kinds of questions. You get things like hotspot. In the bio world, that's great. Point to this diagram where we're expecting this result to happen. You got drag and drop, so you have a word bank, so you could just give them a little bit of a push in the right direction. And then you get the multiple choice and the select all too. So you get a wide range of what you can put in front of them, which is pretty good for a computer screen.
As a user yourself, what did you like about it? Like the look of it, was it easy to use?
I thought it was pretty easy to use. Like there wasn't anything that was too confusing. The questions were pretty straightforward. The games were very simple. Like that kind of broke up the pace of the questions. I think we're in a time where attention spans are very, very different than they used to be, and a lot of that executive functioning is different. So we need to accommodate that. And just those little quick little breaks where they're just shooting like mosquitoes with bug spray or something like that. It's just a really nice way to kind of just get their mind off of something that might have been a little troubling, or just give them a quick little break before they're back up and at it, looking at some more questions.
So we mentioned a little bit about accommodations and how Wayground has really taken this to another level, in my opinion.
Yeah.
There's an entire accommodations section, and some of those accommodations that I just want to give a shout out to are, they have speech to text embedded, they have reducing answer choices, you can adjust the font size, they have the translation feature, and there's even more than just that. That's just scratching the surface. And what's really neat about these accommodation features, and I do think that there's a couple of teachers, other teachers that you have, Kristen, in the high school.
Yes.
Shout out to Patrick.
Patrick Wuss. We wanted to have him on, but we couldn't work out the scheduling.
Yeah, but he does a really neat job in going into that accommodation section and putting in every student's accommodation inside of this. Now, that is okay because we have our compliance paperwork. We are Ed Law 2D compliant. So anytime you're using a platform, you want to make sure that that is there before putting any names or any accommodations in. But because we have that, that allows us to utilize this feature. And every time that a student logs in to utilize this in his roster, they have these accommodations set for them.
Right.
He can turn them on and turn them off. So if it's a little fun game where they may not need their accommodations, you know, a longer amount of time per question, etc., he could turn them off. But for, say, a more serious exam or trying to see like where they're at in a unit and a check-in point, he will, you know, everyone can
And the
most
nice
likely
part
turn
is
it on.
it's there, right? So if he just creates an assignment and shares it out, each individual student automatically has their accommodations already set in there, and it's one less thing he has to do in the moment.
Right. Tell me about this Mastery Peak. We talked
Mastery
about it
Peak.
just before we started here. We started recording. And I was like, Matt, just give us some ideas of how your kids are using this. And he mentioned Mastery Peak, so I want to make sure that it comes onto this recording.
Yes, so for our people that aren't too familiar with Mastery Peak, it's one of the benefits to Wayground is that you do get a student-led option, and that's what Mastery Peak is. So basically, what students have to do is they have to ascend a mountain. I usually use Mount Kilimanjaro. My 8th period class, they wanted Fuji, so we did Fuji. But basically what it is you're going through the questions that you've put onto the assessment, and things that get marked as incorrect, it'll put it back in front of them. And the goal is they master the topic as they move towards the peak. There's like these little camps as you move up. That's where they play the games, and then they'll keep going all the way up to the top once they finish. The dreaded topic, or not topic, reality of teaching is that not everyone finishes at the same time. So it's nice is once they get to the top, they can just play a little game or something like that, or they could look back at some of the questions. So you're also accommodating that reality of teaching as well.
So essentially, if I'm taking a quiz that you've given and I get 3 questions incorrect, what's going to happen?
You'll see them again, and you'll see them again until you get them right.
Right, and that's part of that mastery
Correct.
piece.
And what's nice is the data that you get back from the mastery is also
And that was
great.
my very next question, so I'm glad you're talking about that.
You got it. You got it.
Matt's a
So,
data guy for sure.
Yeah.
I try to be as much as I can. So what's great is you'll see like the accuracy on first attempt, and then you'll see the accuracy on second attempt. And you also get a question by question breakdown as well. So if we're talking about ecosystems, for example, that's what we just did a couple weeks ago, and I see that carrying capacity is a slippery slope and we need to revisit it, I would see something like 30% accuracy, and it's not really improving much on that second attempt. So it's a kind of like a little nice way to remediate before a test or something like that. Like, hey, a little quick heads up, let's talk about this quick again. And that's some of the data that you get back that's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really liked when I was reviewing the platform when we first got it was I saw a video of a teacher with the results like on her screen. And something that this teacher did was, because it's live results, they noticed a lot of red, and they're very good at like color coding. So like green is, you know, everyone's getting it right, but there was a major red zone, and she was able to pause the quiz
Oh, wow.
and be like, hold on,
Something's going awry.
something's up. And then she's like, it could have been user error. It could have been that I put the incorrect answer.
Totally
or
happens.
it could be
At least one question every
right.
time.
And I've done that before too. Like I've put in Kahoots and quizzes, and sometimes I'll do them in professional development sessions. I know for my Google boot camp that we've had years ago, that was something that I did. It was like, how much do you know about Google? And it was like the company snack and things like that. And I remember that one question I put the answer to was completely incorrect. Like I just marked the wrong one. And everyone, I was like, how did, like, I guess no one realized that Swedish fish was the answer, but it was on me. But what had happened was that question just everyone did not understand. And that was a great teaching moment for that teacher. It was a great reflection moment that none of the kids, or 90% of the kids, got that question incorrect. And she was just like, instead of them keep going on, because it has that repetition component, instead of them just drowning on these questions, these two questions that they're getting stuck on, she was able to pause the Wayground, the quiz, and say, hold on, let me go over this first, and then you can continue. So that's another beautiful part of something like this.
Yeah, love that. That real-time feedback is so important.
It is. And I think when you see the reports, and I think for this episode, what I'll do is I'll give like a little intro video, and I'll show like some actual report results.
Yeah.
Just so they have them when they can see it for their assignment. But Matt, let me ask you one last question before we wrap up. Why should a teacher, if they haven't used, say, Kahoot, and they haven't used quizzes, or they did it long ago, and it's kind of outside of their teaching practice, why do you believe that Wayground is something that they should at least try once?
I think the alignment piece to it is phenomenal. So, as I've mentioned before, year one, time is money and money is time. So the ability to just go on and know that our next generation science standards, which is what we follow, has a pre-populated question bank in there is super, super helpful. Even beyond that, if you're picky sometimes, like myself, you do also have the ability to upload your own PDFs and documents and to populate some questions and sift through there. So I think that the time that you can get back and do other important things for your kids from Wayground is really, really important. So I highly recommend give it a shot and see where it'll take you.
Right. And I think that alignment piece that you just highlighted is really important, because you're not sitting there just saying, okay, what questions am I asking them?
Right.
You don't have to find the test that you're going to give them and repeat it. They have, it's curriculum aligned. You're going to type in New York State, you're going to find your specific standards, and you're going to pull from that bank. And even if it's worded differently, like that's okay. You could change it.
You can also copy and paste questions too, which is awesome. So if I want to continue with the same diagram for a little bit, because that's what our Regents does in June, is that you're going to have to pull from the same pieces of evidence, the same pieces of text with different questions, you have that option. And it's so nice to not have to Control-C, Control-V. You could literally copy and paste the whole question, and it'll also keep it in sequence for you, too.
Amazing.
So another little time saver.
Amazing. And I will say, at first glance, when I saw Wayground and the more I use it, I see a lot of overlap with another platform.
You do?
Does it rhyme
do.
with cool?
Huh?
Is it Magic School?
No, I don't. There are AI. there are.
So you
Actually,
missed.
no. There are AI components and things of that nature in Wayground.
Right.
But there is a lot of overlap with, I feel like, Nearpod.
Yes, we did talk about this. Yes.
I've been nuts over Nearpod for years, but I will say that I do feel like Wayground is really amping up their game.
Yes.
So not only can you produce quizzes in Wayground, which is weird because now I just put quizzes in Wayground
that
in
is
one,
funny.
but you can also create passages, flashcards, and there's other elements to Wayground. We're just talking about a piece of the Wayground puzzle,
Yes.
honestly.
I think that's what struck me the most was that it started as this one singular task type tool, and it has grown into a much bigger platform that offers quite a bit more. So yeah, and you're right. It does have very a very Nearpod feel, and so if you are familiar with using Nearpod in the past and you like that format, I think this would be an easy transition as well.
Definitely. And you can have your lessons, like you can plan your lessons on it or take your lessons from elsewhere and
Right.
import them and then put in those interactive elements, which is why I think Nearpod, because that's what Nearpod
Right.
is all about.
Right.
Is having your lesson on there and creating those interactive experiences throughout. And now that's what Wayground's doing.
And I did a little research as well, and that is why they renamed it. Wayground was intended to encompass more and not just quizzes.
Just
that it's
quizzes,
this
yeah.
bigger platform now, and that was the
Right.
reason for the rebrand.
But I will say, so far, my favorite part, and I still have to do more of a deeper dive into all the other components, but I do love, if there's like one takeaway that I got from Wayground so far this year, is the different assessment opportunities, like Matt highlighted earlier. There's the drag and drop, there's the hot spot, there's all of
Labeling.
these different elements that I would not even imagine to incorporate into
You can't do it
questioning.
on a traditional test too sometimes. It is
Right.
really nice to have the drag and drop. You could have them circle something on a test. That is something that New York State's put in front of kids on the bioregions, so it's kind of nice that we can get that there too.
Yeah, they have drag and drop, reorder, categorize, match, open-ended responses that include audio and visual. They even have some specialized graphing for math. There's interactive video questions. There's a lot. There's a lot to choose from.
So back to our song. On the Wayground,
On the
I saw
Wayground.
you and you saved me a lot of time in teaching. You
Yes.
saved me a lot of time in prep work, right?
We've
Yes.
written a lot of songs on this podcast. A lot.
Yes. So Matt, thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining us for this episode. You are a wealth of knowledge and we appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And we will see everybody for our next episode.